Well, a win is a win, right? That's how you got to look at it. Yesterday, as the Chiefs end up beating the Jaguars in Jacksonville, 17-9. And we now welcome on and say hi to Kendall Gammon, our Chiefs analyst and, of course, former player. It's brought to you by Xfinity G10, a revolutionary new network that will transform the way we all connect. Well, Kendall, let's start off with the positives here, right? Defense looked good. You get a win on the road against a playoff team. You got to feel good about that.
No question about it. The number one positive, they scored more points than the other team.
Yes.
But, the defense, absolutely. Only giving up the points they did, I think is fabulous. And I'm not worried about the offense, Pete. They'll come around, and they had some good things. It looks a little bit sloppy at times. I think this growing pains between Patrick Mahomes and receivers may take a little bit longer than maybe we thought. But the fact is, when you have a defense doing what they're doing, that's huge. And this is a good Jacksonville team. It's a playoff team, and so to see what the defense has done the first 2 weeks, I think is impressive.
I totally agree there. And, Chris Jones coming back, he had his presence felt right away yesterday in that game. A couple of big plays. And even when he wasn't making big plays, he was getting double-teamed, allowing other guys to make big plays. So how does he change a defense that already we thought looked pretty darn good in week one without him? How good can this defense be with him back, especially when you look at the last few years when the defense has had itself some issues?
Yeah, it's really amazing. He has 1.5 sacks on the day. I think he helped cause at least one more, and maybe the other, because I think the Chiefs had 4. Then the fact that Karlaftis got a sack and a half also, I think that's huge. He's coming into his own a little bit early in the second year, perhaps. But as you mentioned, when Chris is in there, he just he's playing like he's kind of possessed. He's playing like, as he said in his contract, he wants to get paid for being the defensive player of the year, and that's how he performed yesterday. I mean, the guy is just all over the place, and I do keep chuckling about it, and it really is the truth. You talk about somebody that you can see the fresh legs on. He has got the fresh legs, and it's interesting. It's going to benefit him for a while, for sure.
What about the other side? You mentioned the offense, but obviously offensive lineman Jawan Taylor, who got an $80 million deal in the offseason, was somebody who had himself a rough day. Ton of penalties, cost this team some points with those penalties. What do you make of his performance and the fact that it looks like officials are now keeping a very close eye on him for possibly jumping before the snap to start defending the blockers on the D-line?
Yeah, well, they were good calls. I agree with it. And it's interesting because I think it came out in the press that the NFL was going to make a point of that this week, which was not only getting up too quick on the ball, but also the tackles making sure that they were lined up there. Their helmet is supposed to at least cross the belt line of the center, which I don't think it ever really does and doesn't get called for it. But his was so egregious that they did call it at least once. I don't know if it was more than that, but he's got to pay attention to those things because, in tighter games, that could be the difference in the ball game. It wasn't yesterday, but that's a huge deal. That being said, he's a good player. He's an unbelievable athlete. I think he will be fine. I think the offensive line in general is playing well, and I think this is a pretty good defense in Jacksonville as well. So, again, this is a playoff team that the Chiefs went on the road in some conditions I think that were tough in terms of the humidity and heat. It's something we haven't been dealing with here in KC that much. So, as they say in the NFL, you know this, any win is a good win. They don't give foul points.
Yeah, Kendall Gammon's joining us on KCMO. Now, you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Kendall, you think the offense might take a little time to get gelling. Travis Kelce was back. He had a touchdown grab. He also appeared awfully frustrated out there at times. He got a lot of attention for that. What do you think that was all about?
I think some of that, he missed one touchdown catch that he was very irritated with himself for not getting. And I think some of it could be just the fact that, I know he played on it and he looked pretty normal, but then he's still got to be slowing him up a little bit. And sometimes the mind is trying to do things that the body just won't allow you at the time. And I think that was the frustration level with it because, even with the touchdown that he caught, he was making a point, but I also think it was a frustration of, pumping that ball into the stand. He was just so irritated with things. But I'm just glad he got through the game. He's still okay, and he made a difference, and he's only going to get better in my mind.
What do you think, Kendall? Offense in general, it looks like it's been kind of sloppy early in the year. It seems like no one's playing in the preseason anymore, so the first week or two being used potentially to kind of work out the offensive kinks. Are you noticing that around the league, and what does that mean for how the NFL potentially responds to making sure these guys come out of the gates potentially a little fresher, or is there really nothing to do?
Pete, it's a good point, and we won't know until next year to see if anybody changes their course of action. Big Red puts the guys in a little bit more than others in the NFL, but we were still a little bit rusty, obviously, this year as well. I think it's more towards the fact of, just having a lot of new people working together. But I think to a certain degree, even when you have, practices with other teams, it's not game atmosphere. And I think ultimately you'll see the coaches start to sway a little bit more towards getting the players in. I mean, I understand that they're always scared about getting the star hurt and the backlash you're going to catch from that, not to mention how it hurts the team. But there's got to be a happy medium somewhere, and I don't think we've found it yet.
Who do you think emerges as the number 2 wide receiver, the go-to guy for Mahomes as this season progresses, Kendall?
Oh, my goodness. I thought Sky Moore showed pretty well yesterday. Kadarius Toney, we haven't even mentioned, but five targets, 5 catches, did some good things, and they got him on the horse early. But I do think Sky Moore and Rashee Rice are going to step up as it goes on. I just think they make the most sense.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kendall, always good to have you on. We will get you back on Friday and get set for the Bears game, 7:05 Friday morning. Thanks so much.
You bet. Take care, Pete.
All right. That is Kendall Gammon. Well done, as always, by him.